Hi everyone, happy Wednesday. It's Darren here, standing in for Alysia, and I'm very excited to be here with you for our weekly global online fireside chat. Lisa's just landed in Silicon Valley and picked up a bout of flu, so has asked me to fill in for her today. Please bear with me as she really leaves some massive shoes to fill. I hope I will do it justice. As am I, I'm sure you'll be thrilled to have her back next week Wednesday when everything will be back to normal once again. Today we're broadcasting to you live from London on a somewhat rainy Wednesday afternoon, but still looking out over the gorgeous London skyline. You've got to love the city. As always, today we have an amazing session planned for you. We have a panel of brilliant VIP panelists joining us from across the globe, logging in to help you understand just how important entrepreneurial experience is when becoming startup investors. Now that I've got you all excited, let me go ahead and introduce you to our VIP guests before asking them to properly introduce themselves. Welcome to Bengaluru, India-based Devleena Bhattacharjee, who is an entrepreneur, researcher, and passionate data analyst. Welcome to London, UK-based Sanjay Choudhary, who is a startup enthusiast, angel investor, and entrepreneur. Welcome to Nigeria-based Mariam Abdullahi, who is a banker, human development expert, entrepreneur, and women's empowerment advocate. Welcome to Jakarta, Indonesia-based Joshua Augusta, who is an investor, startup advisor, and artificial intelligence enthusiast. Welcome to Palestinian territories-based Saad Halwani, who is an expert non-profit program manager and community organizer. And finally, last but not least, welcome to Johannesburg, South Africa-based Bapati Kanyisa Ngajani, who is an entrepreneur, disruptive innovator, impact investor, and risk advisor. Would each of you like to quickly go and introduce yourselves to our community? Devleena.
Hi, everyone. Good evening to all of you from Bangalore. Thank you, Darren, for giving me the opportunity to be here today. I have been an entrepreneur for a little more than a year now. I've been into data science for the last 10.5 years, and finally sort of taking the plunge and building something that I've been dreaming of for a long time. We are basically building a journey intelligence platform that provides a 360-degree view of global destination and routes. So if I can help you visualize it, imagine us as a map. So where you can give me the destination or put a finger on it. I give you proactive, personalized intelligence on 3 broad categories. So it's safety,
awesome.
Convenience, and cost.
That sounds absolutely awesome. Thank you very much, Devleena. What about Sanjay? Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi guys, it's Sanjay Choudhary. I'm based out of London, UK, and I am an active angel investor as well as a startup enthusiast. I began my entrepreneur journey it's been 5 years now, and when this topic of a specific topic which came into from the investor need to be an entrepreneur, it got me excited, and I thought, let me share my thoughts and experience and why it's important. So thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay. Mariam, tell us about yourself. Mariam, are you with us? Okay, Mariam might be having some technical difficulties. How about Joshua? Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, Darren. Hi all. Thank you very much for the invitation. So I'm based in Jakarta, Indonesia, representing a venture capital called MDI Ventures. It's the corporate VC arm of Telkom Indonesia, which is one of the biggest telco companies in Indonesia. So we are spearheading the corporate innovation initiatives of Telkom, and we're investing into startups all across the globe, starting from early stage up to growth stage and late stage investments through our corporate VC arm. And our goal is to build the corporate synergy and portfolio management through our group. So practically, awesome. That's what we do.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Joshua. Saad, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Saad, based in Jerusalem, and I work with youth to provide them support in developing their ideas into startups and social enterprises.
Awesome. And finally, last but not least, Bapati, do you want to tell us about yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Bapati Kanyisa Ngajani. I'm from Johannesburg, South Africa. I am a social entrepreneur, and a venture capitalist. My entrepreneurial journey began 6 years ago. I started off as an infrastructure entrepreneur, and 4 years into that, I then transitioned into social entrepreneurship. We then founded a startup that focuses mainly on e-commerce platform for the construction materials industry. Also putting together a impact investment fund, venture capital, to look into advanced manufacturing within the Gauteng province in South Africa. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Bapati. And Miriam has joined us again. Miriam, do you want to tell us about yourself? Miriam? Okay. But
I was a banker for about 15 years, and I've been in business for about 20 years. I'm an advocate for women empowerment and girls' child education. I'm passionate about being in business and being an entrepreneur. Currently, we are working on a project with funded by the federal government of Nigeria to ensure that small and medium-scale entrepreneurs receive social funding for their businesses. And I'm happy to be in your midst.
awesome. Thank you, Miriam. And Miriam has also been a very long-time supporter of our Fireside Chat community. So, guys, it's absolutely awesome to have all of you with us, and I'm sure we're going to have an amazing session. But before we begin that, what I'd like to do is just a few shout-outs and just get everybody going and ready in terms of to say thank you to where thank yous are due. On the screen, we've got contact details for all our panelists. Please feel free to reach out to them. And don't forget to keep sending your questions through to inspireme@onlinefiresidechat.com, and we'll continue to try and include them. Given how many of you are joining us today, we have community champions managing the chat room. So if you have any questions for one of our guest panelists, please post your question in the chat window, and we'll make sure that your question gets answered. Some of our community champions will also be helping with any business-related questions that you may have during the session. Just a reminder, we have community champions and ever-growing meetup groups in various cities around the globe, including in North and South America, the UK, Europe, Africa, and Middle East, India, Asia, and Australia. You can see we really are getting around. If you'd like to meet up with your local chapters or would like to start your own, please reach out to Alysia via email at inspireme@onlinefiresidechat.com, and she'll put you in contact with our local community champion. On that note, thank you to all our volunteer champions from around the globe. You are really the heart of our community, and we wouldn't be here today without you. Over the next few months, with your help, we'll be sharing with and inspiring entrepreneurs across more than 100 countries. We're already up to 55 and growing. It's truly amazing how far we've grown. Together, we can really make that happen. Thanks again to our growing family of supporters and collaborators from around the developing world who are once again hosting sessions for hundreds of entrepreneurs who do not have access to the necessary bandwidth or understanding of the English language to join our sessions on their own. Thank you to all the government ministries, UN offices, US Embassy Corners, British Council offices, university campuses, schools, business incubators, chambers of commerces, and community centers, community radio stations, for all your ongoing weekly hosting support and for raising awareness within your regions and communities. Thank you to everyone from our UN team for all your support as well. We're streaming across new live platforms today once again, and if you'd like to share us with your community and have a community radio station that you know would like to broadcast what we're presenting every week, please make sure to email us as well, so we can continue to connect with new entrepreneurs and grow our Fireside Chat community into new communities around the globe. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Let's learn from our incredible panelists from today. Our topic today, as we mentioned, is a global online Fireside Chat debate. Should an investor have entrepreneurship experience first? And to have this debate, we have a great cross-section of amazing VIP panelists who you just heard from, and they're going to be giving us their takes. What we're going to do is we're going to be starting off, as always, with a simple question. And the question that we're going to be first asking and is going to be pitched to Sanjay. What value do you believe investors bring to the table for entrepreneurs?
Hi, guys. So the very first thing which investor brings to the table is an experience, and I think experience also the maturity which sometimes entrepreneur require in order to make some critical business decision. And I think that is also support which an early stage entrepreneur require to make those critical decision. It's called learning by somebody else's mistake. And if an investor being an entrepreneur, it also even helps further so that they don't make the same mistake which once an investor who was an entrepreneur as well has made. And I think that's the critical thing I always see, the value add from an investor perspective.
That is some great advice and some great insights. Thank you, Sanjay. Joshua, do you have anything to add on that one, coming from a corporate background and corporate VC background?
I think especially for seed stage startups, it's very, very important to have, I think, investors that can really bring value add to you besides money, because in the seed stage, usually startups are still in their what we call in our company the validation phase. In these validation phase, there are some milestones, there are some metrics that need to be achieved for them to be able to reach some sort of sustainable growth and desired amount of growth for them to be able to be successful. So for them to get those kind of insights, investors' role as a mentor will be very, very crucial at that stage. I think that's number one, the higher order bit. And then the second one, as a corporate VC, from the corporate VC perspective, I think business development channels and also growth strategy and go-to-market strategy for startups using our corporate network is also crucial. That's what we always think that the importance of corporate VC right now in our ecosystem is to bring those growth channels into our startups.
Awesome. There's again some really great insights. Devlina, how about from an entrepreneur's perspective? Is there anything you'd like to add to what Sanjay and Joshua have been saying?
Yeah, and I agree with all of that. And the crucial thing what I have investors and mentors in space, and a normal corporate experience doesn't really prepare you for a startup. For a startup, it's very
I think we're battling to hear Devlina a little bit. I think let's move on to the next question, because I think it actually is a very good, there's a very good move on from what Joshua had been saying. As an entrepreneur, he was talking about seed stage companies. At what stage should you be looking for an investment?
Darren, are you asking a question to me?
Yes. No, I was actually asking, sorry, I think somebody is feeding back. Okay, what I was asking is, as an entrepreneur, at what stage should you be looking for an investment? And you had mentioned that, and I think, you had mentioned talking about seed stage companies. Do you want to start the answer on that one?
When should you ask for outside investment?
Yeah, as an entrepreneur.
Okay. So I think that number one, it's before you are pitching your business to VCs, it's very, very important for you to put your own money to do bootstrap, at least a small amount of money to start with. So it's really, really bad and a really red flag for us as investors to see startups who are asking money from VCs just for their product development. That's number one. So it's really, really important to put your money into your startup so that VCs can understand that you're putting your skin into the game. I think that's advice for startups. And then I think for VCs in valuing startups. And number two, I think it all depends on what you necessarily need in your stage of your startups. So for example, Series A startups are usually Series A investments or Series A fundraisings are usually for growth, in our opinion. So if you are trying to grow your startups, then you need to ask for those Series A investments. And perhaps in Series B, in our version, it's all about growth to profitability. So if you're still burning money, you are not in the road to profitability, no matter how hard you work, I think Series B investments is not imminent for your startups at the moment. So I think it depends on the stage that you're in. There's no really a firm answer for that, but I think that's the big picture.
Okay, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you for the great insights. Miriam, you wanted to add something to that?
Yes, so in addition to all said, I want to add from developing country's point of view, we like to use our own money, you understand, first and foremost, and then we now start looking for additional funds when we want to expand. So most times we use our own individual money from savings or from sale of assets to create our startups. And then as we now get to expansion stage, we now start looking out to see, how can we get more money and where can we get more funds to expand our businesses. So that's just what I want to add.
Thank you, Miriam. And going back to that, is it ever a good idea, and maybe Bapati, do you want to maybe kind of fill in over here, Bapati? Is it ever a good idea to speak to investors or to ask investors or to seek investment because you actually want the support from the investors rather than solely for the financial value itself, or rather from that, the capital raising on its own?
In fact, I think from my perspective, well, money is important, but I believe the perspective and the technical support goes a long way. You need more acumen, more and more acumen. So to run up from what you're saying, I think it's quite critical to get the other forms of capital over and above what you call money. So you need to get capital support as well, and it is most critical as well.
That's some great advice. Does anyone else have something to add on that one? Devlina?
Hi, Darren. I hope you can hear me. But I have a question. When we are judging the entrepreneur skills in a person, which kind of experience really matters the most? Is it the product, service, planning and building, or is it about running a company successfully, motivating people? So when I judging a person who can come and mentor me, what should I really look for? Say I have the technical expertise to really set the product, but based on what I really want to go to market, how do I really choose the best investor who can really mentor me and also guide me apart from the financial aspect?
Okay. Do you think it's worth, and the question goes back, and how does that tie into, do you think it's actually worth getting an investor just because you want to try and get the person's resource in terms of the value they can bring to the party, as opposed to even if you don't need their money at the time?
Definitely. I think I would definitely look for more mentoring than the money. And it really matters to me if a person has the skills for going out in the market or has the experience of building the product, building the company and running it. So that matters to me, but I would like to hear it from the other students.
So
Okay,
I have something to add here, if I may.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think from my perspective, I think entrepreneurs should really look for mentors and investor. Irrespective, if they're looking for only a mentor, they also need to have skin in the game. Everybody is busy in their own life. What is there to think about your business when they wake up in the morning? So you need to also have their skin in the game, or need to have a clear KPIs for the mentor for their involvement. Otherwise, it becomes just a tag on the website that we are a mentor or advisor. So I think that's one part. Secondly, of course, when we look for an investor, of course, if he or she can be a mentor as well, I think it's great. And I'm sure they would try to pull their resources if they put the money. So I think both the things you need to evaluate properly. That makes sense?
Yep, that makes perfect sense. Anybody want to add? Saad, do you want to add anything?
Okay.
Miriam?
Yes, I want to add to the fact that as entrepreneur, we have various needs and support. Sometimes we require technical support, sometimes we require managerial support, and then sometimes you require finance. So it's not all about finance. When I was in the bank, when entrepreneurs bring in their proposal requesting for funds, by the time we do the need analysis, most times we discover that this person does not really need funds, but what the person requires is probably technical support or managerial support or realignment of the business strategy, or sometimes just branding that a business needs to move that business forward. So there's a need, before an entrepreneur requests for fund, there's a need to do an analysis of what that business requires. And then an investor should not just invest in a business without doing a need analysis to find out if that business requires funding, or that business requires technical support, or that business requires managerial support. Because if the business requires technical support and you fund that business, the technical problem will still be there. Or if the person requires managerial support and you give technical support, the managerial problem will still be there. So there's a need to do an analysis of what the business requires before an investment can put in any fund.
Thank you, Miriam. Very, very interesting. And I think all of these questions, it's quite interesting, because the next question that I wanted to ask is talking about silent investors. And basically, when you're looking for investment, so now we're talking about the money aspect. Is it better to take investment from a silent investor, one that would basically allow you to continue your business in the way you've been doing it? Or is it better to take money from an investor that you can depend on to help add value to your business? Joshua, would you like to take a stab at that one?
I mean, ideally, you know, the ideal answer for your question is to take money from you know, investors who are not only giving you money but also experiences, network, you know, technical abilities and such. But sometimes, you know, when push comes to shove, you need to also realize that, you know, if you are, especially if you are on the later stage of the investment stage. So usually, if you're asking for example, if you're a business like, you know, Uber or you know, other big private startups that are growing really fast, and you are raising like $1 billion, $2 billion, $5 billion, it's really hard to find like you know, the combination of these experience and money at the same time.
Right.
Sometimes you need to bear with, you know, private equity companies, or money from the United Arab Emirates that maybe you don't really know. Maybe it's not really a well-known investment firm, but they have the money, right, that you need. So
right.
Really, yeah, you know, when push comes to shove, maybe sometimes you need to deal with these kind of firms as well. So
very interesting insight. Devlina, yeah, you would like to add to that?
Right. So I think you know, I think the equation changes a bit between first-time entrepreneurs and serial entrepreneurs. If I already had some experience in setting up a company and seeing it be successful, and this is my second company in place, maybe a silent you know, investor or silent advisor can really, you know, would not, I won't mind that. But for a first-time entrepreneur like me, who is first time going to the market, you know, there's a whole lot of, you know, things going on all of us. So it's different. I would definitely want someone who can be a part of, who can discuss with on everyday basis and take insights from not only the, you know, investment point of view, but also, you know, reaching out to public, you know, social media, how to really, you know, plan out the next 5 years journey. So things like that, I would definitely be the more active person.
Okay, great. I think that makes a very big difference, and I think that's a very good insight. And I think it's great having entrepreneurs and investors in the same session, because you actually should really get this debate happening, and that's awesome. My next question is this: if you are looking to find an investor, and one specifically that you believe can add value to what you're doing, how would be the best way to go about sourcing this investor and looking for one? Sanjay, you've had quite a bit of experience in terms of different startups and advising as well. Do you want to give some of your feedback on this one?
Yeah, I can. Again, it's a very difficult question in terms of you know, how to go about finding the right investor for your startup, because you don't find out the way of working of an investor till he or she gets involved with the business, whether as a part of a firm or as an individual angel investor. So I think it's very, very difficult to say. If at all, I think investor come with the references as well. I think it's always a good part, with like any references. So if there are, you know, co-workers or buddies who have actually already doing startups, I'm sure people in the community know how at typical angel investor or a VC works. And I think that culture which investment company or or even an individual has in terms of ethics to work, I think that always helps. So it's a very difficult one to choose. Sometimes you have to just go with a leap of faith and move ahead.
That's very interesting. And one of the things that one of the investors that we were looking to work with in the US is he actually has a very interesting model. He'll work with a startup for about 2 to 3 months before actually investing. So he'll kind of want to find out about the field, how it works, how they work together, whether or not synergy works before he'll actually invest, which I found could be quite an interesting slant to take. What is your thoughts on that?
I think that here.
Yeah.
I think that this approach is in my view very much appreciated, but I don't know if investors would have much time on their hands to replicate the model. It's really a very positive model, especially when you're talking for young, inexperienced entrepreneurs that are starting with their small businesses that may also do not have the experience to know the innes and gritties of managing a business. So having an investor in those 3 months adding in and looking at the system and how it's going would benefit in the growing of the business as it is. I myself, I come from a background not from the, let's say, investor side or the entrepreneur side, but rather on supporting young men and women on establishing their own businesses and going forward with that. And Palestine, as I don't know if everyone is aware, but it's a very risky situation. So not many ideas get that ultimate investments. We have some cases of ideas that really got venture capital investment up to something like $1 million, but those success stories are really small and rare at the same time. What we want to see and what I would like to see from investors in all is the courage basically to realize that they are not in for the money totally. They are in for the money on a small percent, but they have a vested interest in seeing those businesses grow and becoming more prosperous, because in the end it would benefit them as well. So it's a kind of a tricky balance between the value of your investment as a monetary value of your investment as opposed to the social value of the investment as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Saad, and I appreciate that input. It's very interesting. But Pati, do you have any feedback on this question? Do you have anything to add?
Oh, yes. I believe that from a perspective, now from a perspective of an entrepreneur, I believe that the easier way, or maybe the way that works the best, is obviously the social media platform, where you pretty much get to understand the criteria that the investors use. Some of the investors are quite active on the platform. They will sort of like give a hint in terms of their character, what they look out for. So I think from that perspective, you get a glimpse of who the person is, and it sort of like allows you to, at a stage where you're making your selection to pick. And the other platform that I found to work is really any other networking platform that is there. But eventually, a lot of people in the startup environment, they're quite visible on the internet. So it's quite doable to try and find out who they are, what they are about, what their thoughts are, etc., etc.
Awesome. Thank you, Bapati. I think that's a very good idea. Do research, find out about them, and really get to know them. Miriam, would you like to add to that?
Yes. Let me just go back a little. As an entrepreneur, I don't know if I would want an investor to come and work with me for about 3 months before investing. Maybe at the preliminary stage, if I show you my books, show you my figures, show you my turnover over time, I think that should be enough for any investor. But coming to, I don't think entrepreneurs will be quite comfortable with potential investors working with them for that long.
I think it's not
Also,
specifically. I think it's not specifically working with them, but more kind of acting as a mentor, acting as a sounding board, giving assistance over a period until you kind of see what it's like to really
yes,
work.
but that can be done.
About the chemistry.
If you see my books, if you see my figures, and then you can mentor me after you give me your phone.
Interesting. You don't believe that chemistry has a role to play in terms of whether or not you can work well together?
The thing is, most people that invest, or most investors, already know the companies they're investing in.
Right.
For example, if I need an investor in Nigeria, they must have heard about me, I must have heard about them.
Right.
If I want to work with Dangote, for instance, I know who Dangote is, and I know how rich Dangote is.
Of course.
And I have Dangote staff around me in Kano, so they know my businesses. So he doesn't need to come and mentor me for 3 months before investing in my business. Having said that, I would prefer an investor that believes in me, that believes in my business, and believes in adding value to my business. If you look at what we have on ground, yes, if you look at all the things that we have on ground, and you believe that there'll be return on your investment, just invest in my business. Because that's what we're looking for, return on investment. Most investors ask the question, what will I get in return for my money? And how long will my money be returned back to me with maybe profit or revenue or whatever? So once you're able to establish that, I think an investor should be able to invest in any business.
Got you. So going back to my earlier question, if you're looking for an investor, you would prefer a silent investor who basically gives you the money and allows you to run your business?
Yes, it depends. A silent investor can add value silently. You don't need, except if you are investing and you are a part owner of the business. If you have 10%, you have 20% in investment, okay. Then you can be a partner in the business. But if you want to be a silent investor, the fact that you've already committed your money into that business, you've already added value to it.
Awesome.
Yes, you've already added value by committing your fund to the business, you've already added value. So you can still be a silent investor without necessarily be in the operations, the daily operations of the business.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. No, that makes perfect sense. Well, then going back, and maybe let's see who would like to answer this one. Do you believe that an investor with entrepreneurial experience can add more value to your business than one that doesn't have entrepreneurial experience? So maybe one that comes from a corporate background, for example. Joshua, would you like to kind of give a try to that one?
I think definitely it will have, for entrepreneurship experience, will have, I think, will make better investors compared to the ones who doesn't. I think for the most simplest reason is from the empathy standpoint. So becoming investors that already walk the talk and already have experience, especially the failure side of building startups, because not so many people understand this, but I personally think that building a startup, building a company is really, really hard. So it's very, very important for investors to have this empathical point of view towards toward mentoring or investing into startups, especially the ones in the early stage. Again, I think this is very, very crucial for startups in the early stage. Being entrepreneur is really, really lonely, and if you are a startup and you have investors who have been through that phase of hardship, those torrid moments of being lonely as entrepreneurs, who have really experienced that path, I think it's a plus for you as a founder. So I think from that point of view, I think it's much better to have investors who have entrepreneurial experience.
Awesome.
So,
thank you, Joshua. Sanjay,
yeah.
do you have anything to add on that front?
No, I would echo the thoughts what Joshua said, and absolutely, I would say it's always good if you have an investor who has an entrepreneurial experience, because they can empathize with the entrepreneur, they can understand, they can relate to the things which, whether professionally, emotionally, there are a lot of ups and downs happens during a startup phase. And I think it's really key for the other person as an investor to really understand, also to understand what it takes from running from an A to B with limited resources. Because even if after you receive the investment, it's not that you have an open tap, you have a limited resource to work through. So I think all these things taken into account, it's really critical that if you do have an investor with an enterprise, always approach which that's what make a good relationship between an investor and an entrepreneur, that you can empathize with each other and take the journey forward.
Awesome. Thank you. Saad, anything you want to add on that front, or you're in agreement? Saad, are you there? Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I was on mute, sorry. I think that it's basically a 50-50 approach. Both would bring value to the new business, to the new startup. And I would imagine having an investor who has that entrepreneurial experience would help a lot. But as having the capital, the corporate businessman coming and investing into the company, it's also helpful. I don't see any kind of contradiction between both, because in the end, both would have an approach that would help you as a young startup to develop your work in a much better way. Now, each one of them would come with their own nuances as to how they would help you, but in essence, I find value in both of their intervention. I am totally on board with what Sanjay and has said concerning the investor with the entrepreneurial background would help you because he understands the risks. He or she would understand the risk, would be more sympathetic with the beginning of the job. But also, I give value to the corporate investor coming in, having those, let's say, corporate benchmarks and statutes and systems coming into place that would, in my view, would help you as a startup as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Saad. Appreciate those insights. Bapati, if you have a look at the whole investor experience and bringing an investor on board with your business, where do you think different areas that investors can help add value are? So what areas do you think investors can add value in terms of your business as an entrepreneur?
Okay, from a South African perspective, the seed stage of the business, you would normally take care of it using grant making, where you would then establish your markets and fully conceptualize the idea and establish the market and start picking up some clients or customers. The better stage where I would think the investors are better to come in, it would be mostly the early growth stage of the business, because at least at that stage there's lesser confusion in terms of the direction, and the risks that are associated with the business are predominantly refined and better understood. So it is better to have a conversation with the investor and to clarify things than at a much more earlier stage. So it would be the early growth stage going forward. But obviously, you understand it will be different types of investors into the intervention, from your venture capital investor, and of course, if you are fortunate to go the listing route to eventually maybe private equity.
Okay, awesome. Devlina, what kind of information would you like to get from your investors? So if you had these investors that could add value, where do you think they could add value to your business?
specifically about me, I've been a techie throughout my professional experience. So I would definitely need someone who has the marketing knowledge, or how to really launch the product, or the business acumen to really go ahead with the product, the customer reach. So I would really need the strategy and the business side end of things from an investor. That is what I'm looking at. And specifically, again, speaking from my own experience, I think that's where I would need the basic value add. And of course, it really benefits me if he has some technical expertise, so that he can assess the product from the technical angle as well. Because for us, it is a very data-centric, very technical-oriented product. So I would definitely appreciate who has the technical flair for it, who loves what technology can do. But saying that, the business skills of his strategy making skills, his judging a customer segment will value much more to me.
Awesome. I love that. That's brilliant. And Miriam, coming from somebody who's got a successful business, you already have got, you know what you're doing, you know how to get from point A to point B. What kind of value would you like to see from an investor if they were going to add value to your business? Miriam?
If I can step in.
Yeah, okay, go for it, Saad.
Darren. Basically, I have four integrated options for investors that they add value in when they come for a startup, and they are basically risk management and aversion, systems revision, market analysis, and finally product adaptation. And these lead into each other for coming from an investor point of view, because an investor would understand the market better and would give a more concise risk management portfolio basically for the new business, and would help the new business in averting falling into risks. And also the new investor would help revising the established systems and see their compatibility to the market, and if they are giving the proper response to the business's needs. He also would be able to help in the market analysis and building the strategy for the new startup. And as such, all of these would lead up into product adaptation or changes into the product if needed, so that it will be more suitable for the market, and thus would ensure the success of the new startup.
Awesome. Thank you, Saad. Miriam, do you have anything to add on that front? I think you're back.
Yes, from my point of view, as an entrepreneur, I will need, from my investor, I will need market expansion in terms of taking my business to international communities. In addition to funding, that is, investors can partake in my business. It can be equity, it can be silent, it can be angel, but funding is important. For most businesses in developing countries, funding is important, technological input is important, that is national best practices. So these are key things that entrepreneurs in developing countries require.
Great, that's some good insights. Going on to our next question, when we talk about, we've now decided we're looking to go for investors, how would you recommend undertaking a due diligence process to decide whether or not your investors are good investors and they're worth taking investment from? Joshua, would you like to have a start at that one?
I mean, you should have better answers from our entrepreneur friends, because I'll answer this definitely from the investor's perspective. But I think number one, the most important thing that entrepreneurs should look for in investors is, from our side, is definitely room for growth, go-to-market strategy, and business development networks. I think it's very, very important, because we kind of think that, especially in emerging markets like Indonesia, that growth is really hard. Go-to-market strategy is really, really expensive. Starting company is getting cheaper, but growing it's much harder and much more expensive right now. So having strategic investors who can really bring growth and market development strategies, market development network into your company, it's very crucial, more and more crucial nowadays. So I think one thing that becomes our value propositions right now is that kind of thing. So
awesome. Papati, do you have anything to add here?
Yeah, look, if I had to look for an investor, I would certainly look at Alysia for having coordinated this session, which obviously seeks to answer some of the questions I have and some of the questions that other guys have. So it's somebody who has that rare ability to create ecosystems, to enhance ecosystems, and to allow the answering of difficult and challenging business questions to be addressed in a seamless manner. So that is pretty much that in a nutshell.
Cool. Oh, awesome. Anybody else want to add anything on that front? How about let's go into the yes. So
yeah, I think there's an important point to raise here, basically, because startups would be looking for investors, and they might sometimes fall in a trap. And here I would just seriously recommend that startups need to consider the ethical competence and compliance of their investor. A little bit of research into the investors, basically established businesses, what they do, what they work, and their scope and vision. And I have to ask a question, basically an inward question, as a startup, as an entrepreneur. Does this investor share my same principle, ethics and values? I know these two terms are really not good for the business world, but in essence, as a startup, you're still not that part of the world where you disregard your own ethics. And it's an important, in my view, it's an important aspect to consider the ethical behavior of your investor, and just to check if it really falls in line with what you hold as a business. And awesome. For example, issues coming up in Nigeria, a very big question mark over funding received from let's say Shell at the moment inside Nigeria. So all of these issues have to be considered, and you have to have an answer with them so that you can say, yes, I want to have money from that.
Awesome. Thank you, Saad. Appreciate that answer. Okay, we're almost coming to the end of our questions. Yep. Mariam?
Yes, I want to add what the last speaker has said.
Yes.
For both investors and entrepreneurs, both of them have to do due diligence on each other. For investors to invest in any country, you need to know the terrain that you're investing in. We just gave an example of Shell. We have terrorism, in so many places, political instability in so many places. So an investor, you're not just doing due diligence on the entrepreneur or the business that you're investing in. You're doing due diligence on the country that you're going to invest in. Because if the country is not stable, your return will not come out. Your 100%. Return on investment, you won't realize your return on investment. So due diligence is both ways. And then you asked the question, where can we get, how do you locate investors? Of course, you network. You network and you network. You understand?
Cool.
Now, this medium, for instance, is a good place to start from.
Thank you, Mariam.
What we are doing now is a good place to start from to get investors.
Awesome. Thank you, Mariam. Okay, so I've got a question before we finish, because we're now starting to run out of time. But basically, there's one thing I want to ask. I'm going to ask the investors this question. So I'm probably going to start with Sanjay. It's been said that to be a good investor, you need to make a mental shift from being an entrepreneur to being an investor. Do you feel that this is the case?
Partially. So I think it's like a mind and heart game. Sometimes you can easily be very empathetic with the entrepreneur and things going wrong, but also you have to have the right accountability and from the entrepreneur to ensure he's heading in the right direction, and there is some right ownership being taken by the co-founding team. So I think it's partially yes. Both the things are necessary, and in the journey, I think every situation is different, and you have to play by the situation.
Awesome, thank you. Anybody want to add on that front? And I think we're going to be moving on to we're going to be closing out shortly. So what I want to do is I'd like you guys to give some thought to your little tweet, your tweet piece of advice while we're at it. But before I do that, I'd like to just run through each of you and ask you Alysia's favorite question of the show. What industries do you think are ripe for disruption in 2017? Devlina.
We have our product has a big scope in the insurance industry, so we have been doing a lot of jobs, a lot of explorations there. So I believe insurance industry has a big disruption index in 2017.
Awesome.
And apart from that, just speaking from my own market research, what we have done for the last 2.5 years, I still believe travel has a lot to explore, and it's only 30% of what can be provided in the travel market is being provided now, so it has a lot to be done yet.
Awesome. Sanjay, what industries are for disruption in 2017?
Well, as we are already hearing, anything relates to artificial intelligence, IoT, anything related to automation is a big driver, especially for the business, to try to optimize and efficiently cut down the cost from any angle. So I think anything related to automation is definitely something to look forward to.
Awesome. Joshua, what's ripe for disruption in 2017?
Well, in emerging countries, especially Indonesia, is financial technology. We have, I think, most of our population here in Indonesia are still unbanked. Bank access to distribution of financial products and financial institutions in Indonesia, since it's an archipelago country, it's very undistributed really well. It's very unbalanced. So there are a lot of problems, especially regarding the financial infrastructure of the country. So since there are a lot of problems, a lot of fundamental problems here, and basically finance and payments is basically the fundamentals of all aspects like commerce, mobile services and other stuff. So these fundamental problems is really a big problem, and it's ripe for disruption right now.
Awesome. Bapati, what's your thoughts on disruptive industries for 2017?
Yeah, I think I would share thoughts with Joshua. Here in South Africa, I think, or maybe my perspective from the African continent, it would have to be in the banking sector, more especially the retail banking aspect of it. We're seeing more and more incubation activities happening within the banking sectors, more especially in the country, and it's pretty much happening. And yeah.
Awesome. Saad, what are your thoughts on that question? What's ripe for disruption?
Call me a bit of a romantic, but I view that there is a very high potential for artisan regional products coming from each country. I think that this is kind of a small booming sector that focuses on people and product rather than product only. And it focuses also on skills that are built in or learned and earned within a certain community to produce such a product. And I think that there is a very big potential there.
Very cool. Very cool. And then lastly, Mariam, quickly, which industries are ripe for disruption?
From the Nigerian point of view, I think agriculture, yes, agriculture will be a major in the coming years. You understand? Because the federal government has advised all of us to go back to the land, and so many investors are coming into Nigeria to look at the agri aspect and how technology, yes, agri-tech, and how technology can be infused into agri.
Brilliant. We're running short of time, so I'm just going to finish out, and then just remember, think of your tweet piece of advice. I'm going to ask you for it now. Thanks to everyone for this truly amazing session, and for the panelists. You guys were absolutely awesome. We really appreciate it, and Alysia is once again she's very sorry she couldn't be here with you guys. She absolutely loves these sessions. Just to keep you posted on our upcoming sessions with some of the world's best, as always, joining us again as panelists. If you want to learn what it takes to make the perfect, let's not do that. On up and coming sessions, we are not going to be having a session this Sunday. So our next session that we're going to be having is going to be next Wednesday, and that is going to be to learn about those tiny business habits that will make your entrepreneurial business more money. The session after that, on the 9th of August, is going to be how to close that first big deal as an entrepreneur. And then next, a session after that, on Sunday, the 13th of August, is going to be learning the art of finding investors who are actually helpful to your business and success. So there is an element that overlaps this one, so it's finding that right investor. Now, going back, please remember to keep us up to date on all your progress and exciting news. We want to hear about we would love to highlight your success and hear about everything that you're up to in our weekly newsletter. You can drop us an email at inspireme@onlinefiresidechat.com, and also join us on Twitter, where you can find Alysia at StepUpTF or #FiresideChat to connect with her, or on LinkedIn as well. And please reach out to our panelists, reach out. You've got their LinkedIn address, you've got their Twitter handles, those that are on Twitter. Please make sure that you do reach out and keep connected and keep going and keep inspiring. Now for your tweet piece of advice. Devlina, what is your tweet piece of advice?
Well, I'll go with, don't just fight the old, build the new.
Awesome. Love it. Sanjay, your tweet piece of advice.
Work with investors who can be also your mentors and work with you for your progress.
Awesome. Love that. Mariam, your tweet piece of advice.
Learn to overcome whatever challenges you encounter with your investors. If you don't succeed with one investor, look for another one.
Awesome advice. Don't give up. Love it. Joshua, your tweet piece of advice.
Work for investors that bring you growth and bring you to the next level, I guess.
Awesome. Love it. Saad, your tweet piece of advice.
Persevere, do not despair, and keep on the good business going.
Love it. That's awesome. And then finally, Bapate, your tweet piece of advice.
Mine is keep tinkering. The solution is right next to you. Just keep tinkering, you'll find it.
I love it. Absolutely awesome. And from our side, just be grateful. Be grateful for what you got. Be grateful for what you're accomplishing, and just keep your heart in everything, and make sure that you just don't forget to be grateful for what you're doing. And I'm going to get everybody to say goodbye to all our community members. It's been absolutely awesome being here. And thank you to everybody for joining us today. I'm sure that you've missed Alysia, and she'll be back in our next session. I know I most certainly have. I take my hat off to her. This is quite a complicated thing to do. So well done to Alysia, you're awesome. But otherwise, everybody, thank you for joining. Thank you for loving it. And I'd like, just on the count of 3, all of you say goodbye to everybody. 1, 2, 3.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Thank you so much again. And thank you for everything. And we loved having everybody on board.
Thank you.
Thank you.